Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Man Bun Books. Today, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why I read so much fantasy and maybe why I feel like other people should try it. When I tell people often that I read fantasy, I get one of three responses. Nerds like me, who are like, yeah, cool, man, that's awesome, me too. Or people that are kind of like, yeah, okay, cool, man, like, whatever you want, yeah, that's fine. And then there's the third crowd that kind of is like, yeah, I like dragons too. And then I was not 5 years old anymore, and I actually grew up. I read adult stuff. Thank you very much, child. So there's this weird. I think some of the stigma around fantasy is starting to go away in our world based on the popularity of such things as the Game of Thrones TV show, the new ones that are coming out, like House of the Dragon, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Wheel of Time. There's all these new, The Witcher, there's all these new fantasy shows that are coming out and kind of becoming more mainstream, growing popularity, like things like Lord of the Rings that came out in the early 2000s. There's some of that stigma that's going away, but a lot of it still exists, especially in the book community. So, why do I read fantasy? What's the appeal for me? Why does it grab me so much? Why does it pull me in? Let's talk about it a little bit. So, there's a misconception that fantasy is all fairies, unicorns, wizards, magic, pew pew pew, battles, stuff flying around, like action heavy kind of thing. And it can be. And oftentimes it is. But what I love about fantasy so much is the character work and the theme work you can do when you take human beings, put them in extreme situations that are far more extreme than anything we can do in our world, based on magic, based on wacky worlds, based on whatever, and explore the human condition. See how people react. Some authors have opinions on how people react. Sometimes they're similar to how I think about things. Sometimes they're not. It just depends on what the author's trying to do. I love the exploration of the human psychology and the human condition that you can often do with fantasy. There are some fantasy books that have changed the way that I think about life. As I mentioned in a previous video, I work in a field with supporting adults with developmental disabilities and mental health. And there's books that have changed the way I approach my work. There's books, I think of House of Chains by Steven Erikson. There's a character in that book, Malazan, that's the Malazan series, that the character is so traumatized and damaged that it demands a response from the reader. It demanded a response from me. How far am I willing to show this person compassion before I write them off? And once I write them off, because everybody does at some point, usually in that book, why? And why is my breaking point here and someone else's is here? You know, there's all these little things that have changed how I view people in that way. I think of something like Live Ship Traders Trilogy by Robin Hobb, where the way she explores trauma, the way she explores just, man, like, there's a way in those books where you can feed your trauma to something and get rid of part of it. This happens in other areas too of that series, mild spoilers, but like where you can feed your trauma to it and it's gone, it goes away from you. And Robin Hobb explores this idea of, is that actually a good thing? If you could snap your fingers and all your trauma goes away in one instant, would you take it? Does that make you a better person? Does that make you an incomplete person? Does the trauma, as horrible as it is, and the working through that, does that make you a more well-rounded individual? Is that who informs who you are today? Is that why you appreciate the grass growing? Is that why you appreciate a bird singing? Is that why you appreciate a sunset all that much more? It's fascinating. Okay, so we have the themes, the way it influences your mind and how you think. next part of why I love fantasy so much, and this kind of ties into it a little bit, some of the themes, I'm thinking now specifically of Lord of the Rings, where some of the themes of loyalty and love and friendship, where Frodo and Sam are going to the mountain. And there's so many times in that story where Frodo falls and he would fail. And Sam has to be the one to pick him up. Sam has to be the one to pick him up. Sam has to be the one to pick him up. And they keep going on this journey, working together to get to this final, quest to destroy evil forever. How many times in our lives do we need someone like that to come alongside us, to pick us up, to pick us up, to pick us up, and then flip it on its head? How many times are you that person for someone else? Like, these are things that are quintessential and essential to being a human being who has compassion and empathy for your fellow human beings. And these are the things, can't English today, that are interwoven and permeated all throughout a lot of the fantasy I read and a lot of the stories. Now, let's get down to the base level here. I love me some dragons. I love me some magic. There is a series that I read, man, where they are throwing magic around that's cutting mountains in half. It's that epic. It is awesome. I love that kind of thing. I like wizards. I like badass sword fights and duels. I like action as much as the next person. All of those things are just the icing and the sprinkling on top of the awesome cake of what you can do with fantasy. Commentaries on society, commentaries on psychology, commentaries on who we are as human beings. That is why I love fantasy so much. That is why I keep coming back to it over and over and over again. That is why some of these stories have such a big impact on my life, and why I keep coming back to them over and over again, because I keep getting new things out of them. And these themes just keep soaking and marinating and permeating into my core and into my being as I'm reading these stories. That's why I love fantasy. If this has convinced you in any way to give it a shot, please let me know in the comments. Or tell me why you love fantasy. Tell me why you hate fantasy. Tell me why you're not too sure. Let's have a little conversation. Let's talk about it. That's it from me today. As always, be kind to each other.